Thank you very much. So for our next speaker, has come all the way from India for today. He is the principal expert on special needs at the Ellen Mithila University in Bihar. He is an Indian rehab professional, currently the principal of a teacher training college, and has created and had published more than 25 papers on inclusive education in international journals, as well as publishing 4 different books on the topic. I'd like to introduce Dr. Kumar Sanjeev. Please come to the stage.
Good morning to all. So continuing with this symposium, my slide is on an inclusive education environment perspective from India. So I'm presenting Indian scenario in this symposium. Before starting the lecture, I want to focus on inclusion. So now first question is that inclusion of whom? Inclusion of whom means inclusion of those who are excluded from our mainstream society. It includes not only disabled persons, but it also includes women, economic backward section, marginals, and so on. So, what is inclusive education? Inclusive education is a new approach of education in which children with and without disability are educated within the same roof. Means curriculum is same, school is same, teacher is same, but teachers are sensitized towards children with different disability to handle with care. So it is a process of addressing and responding to diversity of needs of all learners through increasing participation in learning, cultures, communities, and reducing exclusion within and from education. Inclusion is not an experiment to be tested, but it is a value to be followed. So, these are the 3 dimensions of inclusion, like social inclusion, political inclusion, and economic inclusion. And we are discussing about inclusive education, a type of social inclusion in our mainstream society or in our mainstream schools. So why is the question of inclusion? Because there is also 3 dimensions of exclusion. Number 1 is unequal access to resources, unequal participation, and denial of opportunity. So there is a 3 terminology: equality, equity, and inclusion. So in Indian Constitution, Article 14 says that all are equal before law and equal protection by the law. But what about equity? To give opportunity to avail equality is equity. And equality in consonance with equity then come to inclusion. So these are the problems of disabled persons, why they they are excluded from, they feel, they are not excluded, but they feel excluded from our mainstream society or mainstream education. Because they are confined with wheelchair, can't walk, can't get up steps, can't walk, can't see or hear, is sick, looking for a cure, has fits, needs help and carers. So these are the parameters of disability, and they need a special cares, just like our normal children have their normal needs, and the special children have a special needs. So this is the hierarchy of development of inclusive education in India. In 1974, there is integrated education for disabled children. The Indian government had just integrated all disabled children in general schools with some scholarships, some free books, and some writers to them in examination. In 1996, first national policy on education comes, and a little bit focus is given on a special education. There is not a terminology of inclusion. But in 1992, the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment has promulgated Rehabilitation Council of India Act and established Rehabilitation Council of India. It is just like our NCT, National Council for Teacher Education. It involved in recognizing the teacher education institution, just like Rehabilitation Council of India is giving recognition to the programs leading to a special need education, like diploma in special education, bachelor of special education, and masters of special education. And the first legislation came in 1995, the Person with Disability Act, and in this act only a word is mentioned like right, because in India inclusion is right-based. So inclusion in our mainstream society became the right, fundamental right. And in the Person with Disability Act, there are 6 types of disability: 3% reservation in educational institution and in jobs. Disabilities are mental retardation, mental illness, HI, VI, and leprosy cured. The terminology is different, leprosy cured. But autism, cerebral palsy, and multiple disability is excluded from in this act. So in 1999, amendment in 2000, Government of India has legislated another act, National Trust Act, and included 3 types of disability: autism, cerebral palsy, multiple disability. These 3 are included in National Trust Act. In 2000, Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan is there. It is just like education for all, following the zero rejection policy. No one can be rejected during or in entering the mainstream classrooms. In 2002, 86th Indian Constitutional Amendment came, and it says about free and compulsory education to 6 to 14 years of all children, including disabled children also. But it excluded those children who are from 0 to 6 years of age. So, inclusion is there, but exclusion is also there. In 2006, Indian government has promulgated a policy that's called the National Policy for Persons with Disability and implemented across India. In 2009, there is another act legislated, Right to Education, for implementing 86th constitutional amendment of free and compulsory education to children of 6 to 14 years of age, including disabled children. But in 2016, later on I am discussing, explaining it, because earlier panelist has said about the classification of disability, types of disability. So in India, there are 21 types of disability. And Indian government is in the way of formulating National Education Policy 2019, but yet it is not finalized. So it may comes in 2020 and renamed as National Education Policy in 2020. So there is focus, we focused on, because it is important for all of you, right of persons with disability, because in India, inclusion is right-based. So there is a different terminology, person with benchmark disability, defined under Section 2R of RPWD Act. Another is, these are the new terminology, person with disability having high support needs. So physical disability include cerebral palsy. Dwarfism is not included in our inclusive education, but Indian government are also included dwarfism. Those children whose height is 4 feet 10 inches or 147 centimeters or less. Muscular dystrophy is the another types of disability. Acid attack victims, as in India, acid attack survivor increasing day by day. And you have seen the picture just like Chapak. There is not mentioned in learning disability like dyslexia, as our program head has said. Dyslexia describes the reservation in educational institution and jobs has 5%. So more disabilities there, just like sickle cell anemia, genetic disorder, hemophilia, Parkinson's disease, which are considered to be the old age disease. So is there because some hemophilia, thalassemia, sickle cell anemia, and multiple disability is there. So Then we talk about the gaps between policies and inclusion in real practice. This is the focus of this symposium. So first point is lack of coordination between the MHRD, Ministry of Human Resource Development, and Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. India is one of the country, there is a lack of coordination between the two ministries. Rehabilitation of disabled persons comes under Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, but inclusive education comes under Ministry of Human Resource Development, that is Education Ministry. So there is lack. So policy is not implemented to the point. Lack of implementation of RPWD Act, the provisions of RPWD Act 2016, two major recommendations are there, that is 5% reservation in admission and jobs. So there is a major problem is issuance of disability certificate and misuse of also disability certificate. Because some of the people who want to become disabled don't take it seriously. If one eye is lost, so there is 30% disability. And you know that for reservation, 40% disability is essential. And for 10%, if your second eye lost, then 100% disability. So there is not question of 10% disability. But in India, there is some misuse of disability, just like some of the people, normal people wanted to become hearing impaired, and they perceive and they practice all those corrective features of hearing impaired, and they succeeded in getting the job in universities. One of my student is assistant professor in Rajiv Gandhi Central University, Arunachal Pradesh. He is not hearing impaired, but he has made hearing impaired disabled certificate. So there is also, if there is problem of issuance of disability certificate, so there is misuse of also disability certificate, and Indian government has tried to make identity card for disabled children online, and several lack of data, because there is 21 types of disability. So 10 type of data in India, 10 types of, there is data of 10 types of disability, but 21 types of disability has no any data that Indian government has released yet. So what does India want to be? Number one is cordial coordination between MHRD and Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. To the point implementation of RPWD Act, the new education policy should address the need of inclusive education, as draft policy has not focused on inclusive education. Adopt easy process of issuance of disability certificate. Implementation of UDID cards should be fastened. Sense of India, which is to be done in 2021, should include the data on 21 types of disability, and each and every elementary and secondary schools should be equipped with at least 2 special educators with resource room also. Thank you.